Welcome to Chapter 2, Lessons 2 and 3, Adding and Subtracting Integers. So when you're adding integers at the same sign, you add their absolute values. And then if both of the signs are positive, your answer is positive. If both of the signs are negative, your answer will be negative. So here in this case, we want to find -1 plus -5. So our answer will be the sign of whatever our integers are. So our answer is going to be a negative. We want to add our absolute values. The absolute value of -1 plus the absolute value of -5. That'll get us 1 plus 5. So we end up with 6. Then we need to go back, make sure our sign is added on to our answer. So -1 plus -5 gets us -6. I want you to try these ones and check and see with what I end up with. So here we've got -3 plus -4. So our answer is going to be a negative. The absolute value of -3 plus the absolute value of -4 gets us 3 plus 4, which is 7. And then we want to make sure we bring that sign down. So it's -7. -7 plus -2. Our answer again is going to be negative. The absolute value of -7 plus the absolute value of -2 gets us 7 plus 2, which is 9. And then our symbol, -9, I apologize. And then finally, a negative plus a negative gets us a negative. We keep our same sign. The absolute value of -6 plus the absolute value of -14 gets us 6 plus 14, which is 20, and then our negative. These parentheses here around the -4 are just so that you can separate the plus and the negative symbol. Okay, it doesn't mean multiplication because on the outside there is a plus sign. When you're adding integers with different signs, your answer will be the sign whose absolute value is the biggest. You then take the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. So for example here, we've got -3 plus 6. The absolute value of 6 is bigger than the absolute value of -3. So our answer is going to be a positive. Then we take our greater absolute value, so 6, minus our smaller absolute value of 3, and we get 3. Our symbol is positive, so 3 is our answer. Over here, 1 plus -4. The absolute value of -4 is bigger than the absolute value of 1, so our answer is going to be a negative. We take our bigger absolute value of 4 minus our smaller absolute value of 1. Take 4 minus 1 is 3, bring down our symbol, and so our answer there is -3. Now you can go ahead and try and check your work with mine. So we have 5 plus -2. 5's absolute value is bigger than -2's. We take our bigger absolute value minus our smaller absolute value. We end up with 3. Our answer is positive, so 3 is the answer. We've got 4 plus -8. The absolute value of -8 is bigger than 4, so our answer is going to be negative. We take our bigger absolute value minus our smaller absolute value, and we end up with 4. Bring down your symbol, and -4 is our answer there. Here it says a blue whale was at a depth of 270, and starting where we left off, we are going to write an addition equation and then solve. And then we're going to interpret the sum. So it says the blue whale was at a depth of 275 feet below the surface of the water. And after 10 minutes, I don't know if that's important or not, it rose 194 feet. So if we want an addition equation to represent the current depth of the blue whale, I don't care about that 10 minutes. I just care about where it started and where it ended. So if it was at 275 feet below the surface of the water, an integer to represent that would be negative 275. And then it rose, so it went up 194 feet. So there's my addition equation. The absolute value of negative 275 is bigger than the absolute value of 194, so our answer is going to be negative. Then we take our bigger absolute value minus our smaller absolute value, and we're going to get 81. We're going to put that up there with our symbol, and we get negative 81. What that negative 81 represents is that our blue whale ended, or its current depth was 81 feet below the surface of the water. So I want you to try. It says a scuba diver is 120 feet below the water's surface. She then ascends 83 feet. What is her current depth? And a little vocab here for you is ascends means goes down. Write an addition equation and then solve. So pause and try and then check with me. So it says the diver is 125 feet below and ascends 83 feet. She is starting at 120 feet below the surface. Then we added on an additional 83 feet going down. So she was at negative 120 and she went down 83 more. So a negative plus a negative will be a negative, and then we just add the absolute values. So 120 plus 83 will get us 203. So negative 203 ends up being our answer there. What that means is that the scuba diver was 203 feet below the surface. So when we have to add two more integers, or add more than two integers, I am sorry I can't talk today. So adding more than two integers, you start off by breaking it down, and then you work it out. So what that means is we're going to break it down. So we're going to start with our first two there. Negative 6 plus negative 15. When you're adding the same, you keep the symbol, then you just add the absolute values. So 6 plus 15 is 21. Then we're going to bring down our plus 6. Now we have negative 21 plus 6. The absolute value of negative 21 is bigger than the absolute value of 6, so our answer is going to be negative. And you take the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value, and that gets us 15. So our answer here is negative 15. So we broke it down and worked it out. So starting here, we're going to start with 7 plus negative 1. The absolute value of 7 is bigger than the absolute value of negative 1. So it's a positive. 7 minus 1 is 6. We're going to bring down everything else. Plus negative 13. 6 plus 26 is easy. We can solve that. We get 32. Because we broke it down, so we did the first ones there. 32 plus negative 13. 32's absolute value is bigger than the absolute value of negative 13. So our answer is going to be positive. We take the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. And we end up with 19. So our answer here is 19. Now it's your turn to try, so pause and check with me when you get back. So we're breaking down 4 plus negative 2. 4 is the bigger absolute value, so it's a positive. 4 minus 2 is 2. Bring down what you got left. And now we just have two numbers, so 2 plus negative 7. Negative 7 has the greater absolute value, so our answer is going to be a negative. You take the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. So 7 minus 2 is 5. Over here, breaking her down. Negative 10 plus 3. The absolute value of negative 10 is bigger than 3, so our answer will be negative. Bigger absolute value minus smaller absolute value. 10 minus 3 is 7. And then we're going to bring down everything else we got over there that we haven't touched. 7 plus 12. And breaking her down again. Negative 7 plus negative 7. When you have the same sign, your answers will be the same sign. So negative 7 plus negative 7 will be a negative. And then the absolute values added together, 7 plus 7 is 14. So we have negative 14 there. Plus 13, because we got to bring it down. Negative 14 plus 13. Negative 14's absolute value is bigger than 13's. So we're going to have a negative. And then 14 minus 13 is 1. So your answer there is 1. Negative 9 plus 12, break her down and work her out. The absolute value of 12 is bigger than negative 9, so our answer will be a positive. And then 12 minus 9 is 3. Bring down our plus negative 11. The absolute value of negative 11 is bigger than 3, so our answer will be negative. 11 minus 3 is 8. And our last one over here, negative 8 plus 4. The absolute value of negative 8 is bigger than the absolute value of 4, so it will be a negative. 8 minus 4 gets us 4. Bring down everything else, so plus negative 1 plus 6. Break her down again because we got 3 terms. Negative 4 plus negative 1, same sign, means your answer is the sign. Add the absolute values, so 4 plus 1 is 5. Plus 6. The absolute value of 6 is bigger than the absolute value of 5, so our answer will be positive. 6 minus 5 is 1. So some vocabulary here for you is the additive inverse. And so those are your opposites, or numbers with the same absolute value but different signs. So if you have 4, the additive inverse is negative 4, because when you add the inverse, you get 0. If we had negative 12, the additive inverse would be what you're adding, would be 12. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0. So your additive inverses are the opposites. So you add the opposite. Additive inverse, add the opposite. So now when we're subtracting integers, what you do is you turn it into addition by adding the inverse, and then we follow our adding rules. And I literally copy-pasted these adding rules from the previous slides, so I'm not going to touch on that too much. So the main thing with subtracting is you turn it into addition, and then you know how to do that from what we learned earlier. So here, 6 minus 15. So since we're subtracting a bigger number, we're going to add the inverse. So we'll have 6. We're going to turn that minus into a plus and add the opposite of 15, which is negative 15. And now you know how to do this. The absolute value of negative 15 is bigger than the absolute value of 6. So our answer is going to be negative. And then 15 minus 6 gets us 9. So 6 minus 15 is negative 9. Over here, negative 7 minus 8. So we have negative 7. We're going to turn our subtraction into addition and turn 8 into its inverse. And then negative 7 plus negative 8, our answer is going to be negative. And then 7 plus 8 is 15. Pretty painless. So I want you to pause here and try and then check your answers with mine. So 4 plus negative 15, 4 minus 15, we're going to turn that into 4 plus negative 15. We are going to take the symbol of the greater absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 15 is bigger than the absolute value of 4. So our answer is negative. The bigger minus the smaller, so 15 minus 4 is 11. Then we have negative 3 minus 12. We're going to turn that into negative 3 plus negative 12. When you're adding the same symbols, your answer is going to be that symbol. And then 12 plus 3 is 15. So our answer is negative 15. When you're subtracting a negative, so what I always say is minus and negative equals addition, or minus and negative means addition. So when we have 9 minus negative 2, you can take these two symbols and turn them into a plus, right? Like if we just rearrange how they're going, they can make a plus sign. So 9 minus negative 2 is actually 9 plus 2, which is 11. And over here, 3 minus negative 5, minus the negative is addition, so 3 plus 5, which would be 8. Now you go ahead and try. So pause, check it out, and see how you do. 18 minus negative 2 is 18 plus 2, which is 20. Negative 5 minus negative 11. So we keep our first number the same. Minus a negative turns into addition, and then you keep the 11. We've got two different symbols here. So the absolute value of 11 is bigger than the absolute value of negative 5, so our answer will be positive. We're going to take 11 minus 5, and we get 6. So our word problem here says, a gopher begins digging at 7 inches below the ground and stops digging at 16 inches below the ground. We want to know how far he digged. I don't know the digged. Ask Roiger what the past tense of dig is and come back and let me know. So we want to know how far did the gopher dig. So if he started at 7 inches below and went down to 16 inches below, we want to know the difference between those two. So you take your bigger number. Negative 7 is bigger than negative 16. I'd rather be in debt $7 than $16. So we're taking negative 7, finding the difference between that and negative 16. When you minus a negative, that's addition. So negative 7 plus 16. The absolute value of 16 is bigger than the absolute value of negative 7. So our answer is going to be positive. 16 minus 7 is 9. So the gopher dig, I don't like that. The gopher dug 9 inches below the ground. You don't have to go ask Roiger, I had learned. So 9 inches is how far he dug below the ground.